Good morning. This is the Legit Real Estate Podcast. I am TJ Shofi. I'm here with Holly Regoli. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning.
Holly, you look wonderful today. I'm going to say it.
Thank you.
Me, on the other hand, I'm like one step into bed. I have no voice. I probably have a fever of about 105. And like, I turn it on and you look like $1,000,000. I'm like, this is not fair. How are you today?
I have makeup and assistants, and I bought new lights and a new computer and a new camera and everything. So, I got some help.
That's exciting,
Yeah, dress to impress, right?
right? Listen, every word I say hurts. So you're going to carry us today
Okay.
because I've sucked on more cough drops in the last 48 hours. I have a listing appointment tomorrow. The guy's like a little bit on the older side. The seller is 106 years old.
Good for them. Oh my God.
For real, right? So the attorney is in charge of selling the house for this woman, right? She's obviously not going to make decisions, but I can't talk.
Yeah.
Like this has been like day 3 or 4 of me just like I'm screaming at you right now, and I feel like nothing's coming out. It's terrible.
So what is it? Do you know what it is?
I don't know. No, I don't. I
That's
tried cough drops. I tried drinking like milk. I've been salt water. I don't know. I'm out of
get
answers.
tested because I heard COVID's going around.
I have never in my life taken a COVID test.
Really? Well, you know what?
Never
It's
once.
just like a cold now anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't
Never. I never took a test, and I figure why start now?
Yeah. I don't know. I had to take my mom to the hospital yesterday. She has been not breathing right since her last chemo treatment. So like which was last Wednesday, and they ended up having to give her 2 full breathing treatments. She couldn't talk without like hacking up a lung. But they gave her like some nice steroids and got her going, and it
Oh,
was
steroids are amazing.
yeah. But we were there all day. I actually had to leave her so I could go get my daughter.
Oh dear.
So today, I know what I wanted to talk about today. I had a listing appointment not
Good.
that long ago, and it was with someone who I had a listing appointment with a couple of years ago. And a couple of years ago, I went in and I gave them the value of their property, and I said, we could list it between this price and this price. He's like, "Well, I'm not selling unless I can sell it for less than, unless I can sell it for 500 or more." So he's like, so, and as I'm talking to him, he's telling me he's had a couple other realtors in there. So I'm like, what? Like, so I guess he's just testing the waters, seeing what he can get for answers from different people and stuff like that. Now, Connecticut is a whole different animal than Rhode Island. I live on the border, and you can buy a house literally like one street over in Rhode Island for 500,000, and then you're looking in Connecticut one street over, but because it's Connecticut, the town it's in is 300,000. Like, I mean, maybe we're closer to $100,000 off. But so I remember a couple of years ago, I went and he's like, "No, I'm not selling for anything less than 500,000." And at that point, I was at like 360 for a value for him. I was like, "Well, we're kind of far off." He's like, "Well, if you find anybody that's looking to pay that much, you can bring them to me." I'm like, "Okay."
They
So,
should. Because
so
those people exist that just want to donate 100 grand to you.
yep. And the house itself, I mean, it's cute, but it's like built in the 80s, and it's got that, it's rustic. I've got my screen blurred now, but like my house is rustic. It was built in the 80s. So it's nothing crazy special. I mean, but back then, so what do you do when you're valuing properties, when you're doing a whole CMA?
What do you mean?
When
I come up
you're
with a
running a
range.
CMA?
Yeah, I come up with a range. Now, I would never cross state lines, even if it was on the next street over. I would stay within the
Yep.
area.
Yep.
But if I was on a border, I would kind of like drag my radius down. I try and stay in the neighborhood, see what's sold. But where you are, you don't have a million comps coming in and out like I do in my area
Hmm.
because like everybody here has a 3 bed raised ranch, so it's not hard to find comps around here.
Yeah. So what my method is I'll look, like, let's say I'm in a busy area like Johnson, like where you are. I'll look maybe a mile out. And
Right.
I'll look for homes that are of similar conditions, similar within 500 square feet of the property, same number of bedrooms, stuff like that. When you're out here where it's rural or in Connecticut, I just stay within the town. Like I can get my comps in Foster. We can be 5, 10 miles wide. I can use the whole area because Foster's Foster. Connecticut, like the town of Sterling, is Sterling. The comps,
Yeah.
I will not go outside the town because Sterling is a different price than Brooklyn, which is a different price than Killingly, which is a different price than Pomfret. Like I stay within the towns because the
Mhm.
school
That
systems,
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
the stuff, it's all different, right? So but I look for similar homes, similar sizes and stuff. So the other thing I had done with him years ago is when I gave him the prices, I said, well, also here's a list of every home that's sold in your town for the last year, and the highest price house that sold, I don't know, back then was probably $400,000. So I was like, so you're saying you want your house to sell for $500,000, yet these are brand new construction homes, and the highest price they've sold for is like 400,000. So I go back with them, like, okay, this is great. We're getting closer to the 500,000. I go meet with him. I give him the new value on the house. I said, okay. I said we could list this just under 5, and you could probably get over a little over 5 based on the size of the house, the fact that he's got like an extra apartment there and stuff like that. And some people are willing if they go over the line in Connecticut. It's a beautiful area and stuff. And he's like, well, that's an insult. He's like, I wouldn't take anything less than 600,000 for the house.
Now it's 6.
6. So I had given him a printout of, like, I showed him a printout of all the houses that it sold for the entire year in his town, and
Hmm.
there was nothing over 600,000. Like at 600,000, everything, even brand new builds were like 400, 500. You know, he's like, yeah, but this house down the street sold for this. I'm like, that's a different town. I wouldn't even use. You can't use Rhode Island. It's less than a mile away, or maybe, yeah, I think probably less than a mile away. You can't use Rhode Island to compare Connecticut. So
Hmm.
it's so frustrating. Have you ever had um sellers?
Sellers that are out of their mind.
Yeah.
God, yeah, yeah, and they're the worst ones to deal with because a lot of times I had a woman not long ago in North Providence. She wanted, I could pull up my spreadsheet, but she wanted 550 for her house. Her house is worth maybe four and a quarter, maybe, and that's if she moved her shit out of there because she's a pack rat. And to have the conversation with her and be like, "Ma'am, you're trying to tell me that you have the best house in the neighborhood, and I'm telling you that you don't. Like, I can put a sign up. It doesn't cost me much to list a house, right? I'll take the pictures. I'll eat the $200. I'll put a sign up." I was like, "But I'm going to be wasting your time and mine." I was
Mhm.
like, "The only person who might win is me if I find a buyer in your house at an open house that I take somewhere else. But no one is going to buy it, and it's not going to appraise." But sometimes people have financial goals that don't match up with reality, and it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I get calls all the time. Those they'll telemarket, we want to buy your house, especially on my two families. They always want to give me a call.
Mhm.
All right, if you give me for my house, if you give me 1.2 million, I'll sell it right now.
Mhm.
And I just listen. I just wait for them to sit there and be like, "Well, your house isn't worth 1.2 million." Well, no shit.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
know that. But when you're dealing with the consumer, and I want to get the listing just like anybody else, but I'm not going to just buy the listing. When I was younger, I might have told the guy what he wanted to hear. Like when I first got into business, oh, you want 600? Yeah, we can try it. Let's try it.
Yep.
But now it's like, well, I'm going to waste your time and my time. And you see that a lot with people that don't have a need to move. They just want the money.
Mhm.
And it's almost like, well, go get an appraisal. You don't take my word for it. Go get an appraisal. But in your case, you're saying you're the second, third, fourth realtor in. That means every other person told him the same thing you said.
Yeah.
And
That's
he's
what
open
I'm
for
thinking. And what I've done in the past, like obviously I want to get listings, and I'll tell people, listen, this is where I think we should be. I'll list it for whatever you want, but I always show them the pyramid. I'm like, the pyramid thing. Your median, your average house price or your market value is over here. If you go above that, your pool of people is smaller. You go below that, you're going to get more people. I'd rather underlist something, get a bunch of people in, and bid it up. And I'll tell everyone that. And then I was like, but you know what? If that's where you want to start, um, I've learned the hard way where I would start there and then there would get frustration and would come down finally to get to where I was originally at for my price. And then we start getting more offers. But then at that point, you've sat on the market and you've sat on the market and now you start looking desperate. But now what I'll tell people is I'll do one of two things. One, I'll tell people, listen, I'll put it on at that, but just so you know, I really think it's going to be here. So I would like you to agree that after 2 weeks of not getting activity or whatever, then we're going to reduce the price to X amount. And it's a pain in the butt. I don't think they realize it, but I don't like just reducing prices. It's more effective to pull the thing off the market and then put it back on.
A
And when
couple
you're
days
doing a
out.
whole new listing and all the paperwork that's involved in it, it's hours of work. It's so much more work. If they would have just listened to me in the first place, we'd sell it in like a weekend and get where we want to get. But with this guy, I'm like, if he calls me back, like I will call him in the spring and I'll say, listen, this is where we are with the market price. But if you don't want to list around that price, then I'm definitely not the right person for you because I don't want to waste my time. My time is getting to be more and more valuable. And I'm realizing like I don't like running around like a chicken with my head cut off for people that don't want to listen to me.
It sucks because you feel like you're hiring me to do a job. Part of the job is giving you a range. If you want to be out of that range, what are you hiring me for?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not taking a retainer. I know some people do. I don't. Like, if I was taking 2 grand off the top to waste my time and go do a couple open houses, fine. But I'm not. So if I know it's not going to sell and you don't really care if it sells unless you get your magic number, then what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I even have buyers that are like that in the opposite way, where whatever's on MLS, I'm not paying full price. Well, how do you know you haven't seen the house yet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just not paying it. So any offer I write is going to be at least 50 grand below them. I have one right now. Anything I write is going to be 50 grand below what they're asking, no matter what. Well, you don't know what the house is. How do you know?
Yeah. Well, I did have a buyer that really wanted a deal on a property. He had to feel like he was winning a deal. And
Was he American?
yeah,
Okay.
very good businessman, young, super smart. And that's what he does is transactions and acquisitions and deals. And we went in and we lost one bid on something. Then we found a house that he absolutely loved. We still got it for less than the guy had it listed for, but unfortunately it didn't appraise. But he loves it so much, he paid, over the appraisal to get what he wanted for it. But that was another one where I was like, this house was listed in Killingly, and I was like, I can't find any houses that sold over like $600,000, or I forgot what the value was, in the last year. And I'm like, so I asked the realtor, I'm like, where did you get these comps from? And she's telling me like Pomfret and Woodstock. I'm like, those are two completely different areas, high end private schools. Like you cannot compare Killingly to there. But I mean the house was beautiful, but it's crazy.
You can get a deal on the house. See, to me, list price is irrelevant. You can get a deal on the house if what you offer for the house is below what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So if a house is underpriced and you buy it at list price, you still got a deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they look at that number like, well, I got to win something, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You
And I
know,
mean,
you're gonna,
sometimes it works out. I mean, I want my clients to feel good about the purchases that they're making. And so, when we went in with the offer, I can only advise, right? If we go
right.
in and I say, well, this house is not overpriced. It's kind of in line with pricing. So we're probably gonna, if I don't even remember the situation, if we were in a multiple offer situation or whatnot, but if you're in a multiple offer situation, then you want to at least go over a certain amount of the value, to try to put your best foot forward. And like I said, he was a very good businessman. He did great, but that house wasn't for him. And when he found the right one, we made it work. But
Yeah, I've got somewhere. Okay, so we're not going to write any offers on a house new to the market. Like I'm just not doing it.
new to the market,
Yeah. If you're going to lowball, you're not doing it on the first weekend on the market. The guy put his house on the market on Wednesday. He's having an open house Saturday. I'm not lowballing this guy Friday morning.
no,
So you can go to the open house if you want to. I'm going to be doing something else.
yeah,
And then if you fall in love with it, let me know. But on the seller side, the frustrating part is even if they don't take our advice, it's going to be your fault when you take the listing and it doesn't sell. Despite the fact that you gave him all the information and he said, no, I want to do this, this, and this. Okay. Then when it doesn't sell in 30 days, it's, well, Holly didn't do her job. You didn't market it correctly. Like,
Well, I mean,
sure I
I've
did.
had people that recognize that they didn't listen to me. I did have one that I listed in April a couple of years ago, and I told them the price needed to be closer to 550. But with all the work they put into it, because they renovated it with so much love and so much attention to detail and high-end things, that they're like, I'm not going to make the money I need at that. Said, well, but if we put it there, we have a chance of bringing a lot more people in that should push the pricing up. And they said, no, I need to sell it for 650. I think it was 615 or 630, at least to make my money back and make a little bit of a profit, because I spent so much time and effort on it. I said, okay, well, we'll try it. And so we started, and we had a lot of activity on it, but we just couldn't get it. And then finally by, I think, October, I ended up putting it back on. I put it on for 550, and we ended up bidding up and selling for like 595, I think is what we ended up at.
You know,
Yeah.
and,
So,
you can tell those stories to clients, and some of them, investors are the best because they understand the game. Investors will underprice. Like when I flip a house, I underprice it from the jump
yep.
every single time. Like, all right, so I'm gonna get this amount, 350. I'm gonna put it on for three and a quarter. I'm gonna get over three and a quarter. I know it, and I'm gonna have a mad dash of people, all kinds of offers, waiving every contingency.
Yep.
Or I could take the same house and list it for four and a quarter and show it a bunch of times, and pray an offer comes in, but people don't want to listen. The regular consumer just sees that top number and doesn't understand. And we can educate and we can advise, but we can't tell them what to do.
Yep. Plus the other
But
thing
what we can do is say, I'm not going to take the list.
yeah, in this market too, or when people more, I see it more in the spring and summer markets when buyers are going in, when it's busy and they know they're competing, they know that they have to offer over asking price. So they go in and they see that top number, they might cut off and be like, well, I can't do that because I'm going to have to offer $25,000 over, so it
Oh,
eliminates
that's a good point.
so
Yeah,
many more people. So
that's a good point.
it is very frustrating when you have clients that think that they know better. Um, I have had some clients where their houses have sold more than I expected, but that's in that, COVID times where insanity and stuff. But you have that range, and
You know,
it's usually within the
that's a
range.
good point because there is a market. We had a market where I gave up on pricing. Like, I just don't know.
Mhm.
There's so many freaking people showing up. So I would go in with all my little realtor freaking homework and say, your house is worth 290.
Mhm.
I think I'd be like, list it for 350. Well, sir, I don't think you should. And we got 380.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what the hell do I know? But I feel comfortable in this market here.
Mhm.
You have to price it right
Yeah. Yeah.
because with rates high and with people higher, or not high, but higher than they were when they were two and three,
Yeah.
and prices high, people are not just going to throw their money away. Like if they see your house has a project and it's not priced as a project, they're not going to buy it.
Mhm.
You can just sit and sit and sit. I saw one in Lee's Plat the other day. It's on their fourth agent
Oh my God.
because they bought it for six and they want to get six for it. It's not worth six, and they're on their fourth agent. It's not the agent, y'all.
No.
It's your freaking price. We can only do what we do.
No, it gets very, very frustrating. I've had so many where I love when I've got clients that hire me and they're like, you tell me what you think is best. And I'm like, well, between this range, they're like, yep. And I love when they're so easygoing, but I mean, obviously when people challenge you, it's understandable, but you have to explain why it's
Yeah.
better to list at a lower price. But I think what it is it's hard for them to get it in their heads that even if, let's say, they really want 350 for a property, and I'm trying to tell them we should put it in for 330, and we'll most likely get 350 quicker. But they're like, but I want 350. I was like, but you don't have to accept any offers that come in lower than what you want. Like, even if
Right.
I list it at that price, aren't people going to expect that I'm going to want, like, at least, like, that price will be okay? I tell them, some people may, some people will come in and they're going to give you that price. But I have told other agents, listen, I priced it here under market value because we wanted to bring in more people and get a higher price. So this option's not going to work. Would your client be willing to come up to this?
They
It's as
come
simple as
up,
that.
but they don't, it's like they don't understand it because they have a mindset of like we're not buying jeans. Like if you go in the mall and the jeans are $100, then that's what you're paying for the jeans.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to bid up, you're not going to go down. But when it comes to a property, as long the listing price is just a marketing tool to get people in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and tell people, listen, we can list your house for $1. It's not going to change the fact of what people are going to offer. Like we should be able to list your house for $1. And realtors are going to come in, they're going to be real pissed because they're going to have to do their own work.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we had an agent in our area that had a couple of listings for $1. And he would put it on for $1 and be like, do your homework, come up with a price.
Yeah. Well, half the time, right? How many of your clients do you end up running comps for before they buy a house, right?
Almost always.
Yeah, because you want to make sure that the price that we're putting in for an offer is not too high, not too low. Like, where should we be for a price? I don't care what the house is listed for. You want to make sure it fits the price, because then the worst thing, right? You go in, you buy a property, and it doesn't appraise. Then you're screwed. I've gone to some agents and I'm like, we want to offer what you're looking for the house again, but I can't find, and that's what happened with the house in Killingly. Said I cannot find any homes that have sold over like 6 and change in the town in the last 3 years.
And then you say, what's your seller going to do when it doesn't appraise?
Yeah,
Are they
and
going
so
to come
what
down?
happened?
Because we're not coming up.
Yep, it didn't appraise. It was 100. It appraised for $100,000 less than we were under contract for.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And the seller doesn't want to come down, and your buyer's not going to overpay. So, boom.
Yep. So then everything falls apart and all the work that you just did. So we're doing all this stuff behind the scenes before we even put the offers in.
Right. And people think it's easy, and it's a lot of it's not. And some of it's feel, because sometimes the only time I do look at a list price is if I go to the open house and there's 150 cars there, and it's like, okay, this is our baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going up higher. But in a market now where things are sitting, I come in with my own comps.
Yeah.
Like, and on my own personal business, I don't care what you listed at. I see the house and that it's available, and then I come in with what I think it's worth.
Well, the other thing too is if you're doing it for your own personal business as an investor, there's other numbers that come into play. It's so different than if you're going to be living there. That's why
Sure.
working with a lot of investors, like I have a special spreadsheet that I use and I'll put in, okay, well, this is the purchase price. This is what I'm paying for financing. This is what I'm spending for rehab and all that stuff. And you have to kind of look at the bottom number and you work your offer price based off of what it's going to cost you in the end and what you want for a profit.
And there's no emotion. It's
No.
like if it doesn't work, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Exactly.
care, no hard feelings. And the same thing on the list side. They have the number, they already know what it is. So they're more than willing to come in lower and get more offers. But when it's somebody's personal house, a lot of times that's all they have.
Yeah.
Like that is their asset. And I understand the mindset of I want to get as much as I can for this asset. But at the same time, sometimes the answer is going to be you're not going to get nothing. You're not going to be able to sell your house. Period. The end.
Yep.
And
I mean, $100,000. I could see, like I said, the one in Killingly, my clients fell in love with, and it was a brand new build. And you think they were looking in Massachusetts and Rhode Island before, you could not find anything like that for that price in Rhode Island. That was a brand new build with such a beautiful view and yard and everything else. Like those homes were like 900,000 in Rhode Island. So getting something over there still was like a deal compared to over here. But when you have a house that's 40 years old, the systems are 40 years old, the shingles, the roof are 40 years old, and you're trying to get more money than the new builds that are in town, it's not going to work.
That's so sad that anything built in the 80s is old. That really bothers me when you say that.
My house is, I think, 2 years younger than me. Oh no, how's it? Mine is 80. It's 80 something. It's almost as old as I am.
That makes me sad.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the 80s is right around. So the other day, So my birthday's coming up, right?
Really? When's your birthday?
Uh, in February. So I was talking to my son about Virginia basketball. He asked me about Virginia, and he's like, Virginia, I don't like Virginia. They play too slow. I don't like this and this, and they can never win their conference because Duke is there. And he's saying all this stuff. And I'm like, a couple of years ago, Virginia was good. Like they won like they used to win the ACC. They won the ACC in 82, 83.
A couple of years ago.
And he goes, Dad, that's ancient history. He said it just like that. And I'm like doing math and I'm like, damn, son, I'm talking to him about 50 years ago, like it's like recent. And I do the same thing with houses too sometimes. If it's built in the 90s, sometimes I'm like, you got a lot of life left in this thing.
Yep.
The boiler's ready to go.
Yes. Yes. No, like I think of the 90s as being like newer and everything, and I'm like, shit. No, it's really
Oh,
not. I was at Scouts the other night. Now there's a full-grown adult that is one of the leaders there, and he mentioned he was born in like I forgot when he was born, but I was like, oh my God, I was 15 when you were born. I'm like, I could have babysat you when you were a kid. And he's one of our adult leaders. I'm like, I feel so old.
it's wild. Yesterday, the press secretary was talking on TV or whatever. And Pam says, she looks young. What's her name? And I said her name. I forgot what it is, but I looked it up. She was born in 97. And this lady's like on the White House, on like she's like the press secretary of the freaking US government. And she was born, I was in high school.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that sucks.
It's crazy. I was actually talking to someone. I got a call out of the blue yesterday from someone I haven't talked to in a really long time. And his daughter was my intern back I can't remember if it was before my daughter was born or not, but it was back in probably like 2000, I think it's 2013 or 14 or something, right? And she was so smart and going to college and everything like that. She's like an officer at her company, right? And I'm like, and I'm thinking, you know, when you know kids that are young and you just always picture them that age when you haven't seen them
Yes.
in so long. And I find out she's gonna be having a baby and like she's like, but in my head, I'm just like, oh my God, but she was just in college.
So I coach, right? So I've been coaching since 2002 basketball. So a couple years ago, I'm at Applebee's in Smithfield, and I see like three of my former players, and they're all drinking beers. So my first reflex is like, what are you guys doing drinking? Coach, coach, I'm 31. It's like, what the fuck? Where
Yep.
did the time go?
See, we get so old so fast. We went to a cookout over the summer, and there was a kid there. Again, I say kid. He was the videographer at our wedding. He was a high school student for my husband at the time, because my husband was a teacher for years, and he was one of the band students. So we had him come and do the video, and he's in his 30s. He works for the post office. Like they have like so many of my husband's students have kids themselves now.
Families, yeah,
It's crazy.
it is. Speaking of wedding photographers, right? I had a wedding, I don't know how many years ago, but we got married. Dum, 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 dum. We moved from the last house to this house. That's the last time I opened the wedding. You know the bin that you throw all the shit in for the wedding
Yeah.
that you pay all the money for, the album and the video and all this stuff. The guy who was my photographer at my wedding is now a real estate photographer who I've been giving business to since the day I got my license.
Really?
Jamie from Image 10.
That is awesome.
So I sent him a picture because his watermark was on like the proofs. And I'm like, James, he's like, yeah, I remembered your wedding.
That
Like,
is
you never mentioned it to me. Like,
did you not realize that it was
I didn't know my wedding. I was wasted
Oh,
from,
that's right. And you're not planning that. Your wife's planning the
I
photography.
didn't hire anybody. I don't remember. All I know is I had to get a tux like 2 days before. Like, I don't remember my wedding at all. I don't even know if it's legal.
Your wedding?
I don't even, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. You know how when you go into a closing and they say, are you a sound mind and body? Because you can't be like wasted signing a contract.
Oh, that's funny. Well, no, because that's why you have to do the marriage license ahead of time first.
Maybe. Yeah, I might have been. I don't know.
Yes,
That was
I don't
that was a
know.
blur, man. My brothers had me like it
I mean,
was
you're
different.
Catholic. You got married in a Catholic church, didn't you?
Sure did.
You did not show up to your ceremony drunk.
Sure did.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, she didn't sleep home that night because I can't see the bride, right?
Uh-huh.
So like everybody was here.
Oh
Like
boy.
my best man, I don't know that he slept. Like I just don't know.
So
I
you're
don't
legal
know.
with the courts, and
And
now
the
you're
eyes
bound.
in the church, I can get it annulled at any time.
No, no, you can't do that. They wouldn't let you do that. Maybe your wife, I don't know.
Her, she's if she hears this episode, I don't know if she listens to us, but if she does, she's gonna be like, "This is the out I need."
The out
Boom.
you need. Oh, see, you just said it. She can get annulled.
So yeah, back to what we were saying. Anything that's our age is like time to be replaced. Your roof, your siding, your boiler, your furnace.
That's true. And they don't even make parts for it. Where was I? I was somewhere and they're like, yeah, I'm trying to think. I was at a property for something and they're like, yeah, we can't. No, no, no. It's one of the properties we're rehabbing, right? This cold spell we've had has sucked. I've had to replace 3 heaters, a furnace, have another heater repaired, had tenants calling me that the freaking pipes are frozen and not working. It sucks. But one of them, the guy goes to fix the furnace. He's like, yeah, it's from, what did he say? Did he say 2003? He's like, I can't find parts for it anymore. I'm like,
No, oh come
I
on.
graduated college in 2000, high school in 2001. I'm like, you can't find parts for the furnace.
Like really?
Maybe it wasn't 2003. Maybe it was 1990 something. I don't know. But anyway, I was like, in my head, I'm like, that sucks. Like, how are things that old and falling apart and you can't find parts for it anymore? And it's cheaper just to replace them.
I know my irrigation system. They don't make the heads anymore.
Oh, that's
And the company, I don't forget the name of the company. They're not in business anymore. The people that did my irrigation, the company that is my whole system. So you can buy like aftermarket parts for like the sprinkler heads that pop out of the ground.
what are you gonna do
But
to?
eventually,
You have to pull it up.
eventually I'm gonna have to dig it up and replace it. Yeah.
Oh,
Like they're all working now. I think I have one in the back that doesn't, but the guy that turns it on and off is like, pretty soon once they break, he's like, I found this guy that had 6 of them. I was like, well, just buy all 6
mm-hmm.
because I don't want to dig up my whole yard. I mean, it's going to be such a project. But the company's out of business. You can't get parts, and it's from the 90s.
Obsolescence sucks. I'm from the 80s and my body's starting to break too. Like I've been working out and doing what I'm supposed to do, and even like the hardcore working out, I was doing great. I went for a walk on the treadmill and I haven't been able to stand up or sit down because I hurt myself. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing. Stupidest. Getting old sucks.
Stop
But
it.
and
You're a
on that
baby.
note, I think we're actually running out of time.
We are. Can you tell the people where to find us? And listen, before you take us away, I really enjoyed last week having a guest. I
Mhm.
thought he brought a lot to the conversation. So hopefully, people will tell us some other topic or person they want on. I think it'd be great.
I've
Where
got
can they find us?
I actually just talked to from Ken.
Yeah,
Referred me to an insurance guy, Bubba. So we're gonna work on scheduling him probably maybe even for next week.
there's
Um,
a lot of topics in insurance right now that would be interesting, especially with the stuff in California and whatnot.
yeah, yep. And then Tunde from our office brought up a really good point that I'd definitely love to bring up with people at some point on an episode because people aren't gonna know this stuff. So, but we are the Legit Real Estate Podcast. We talk about real stuff in real estate. We don't like statistics and all that stuff. We just want to talk about the fun, the down, the dirty, the crazy. Because it's good to commiserate with other people, and sometimes you get to learn a little bit from it too. But if you are interested in coming on the show, please reach out to us at the legit real estate podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on everywhere that you can get a podcast. And if you can't find us, please let me know and I will try to fix it. This is all new for me, but I have been working on trying to get it out everywhere. We have Facebook and Instagram, and I did create a TikTok account. I don't think I told you that, but I did. So we
Your
are
world, Holly.
we are everywhere, and I'm trying. Oh, let's see. What else do I need to share?
Well,
I don't know what.
next week I'm gonna look better and sound better. I hope.
Well, I hope you feel better. But so try to have a good day. Rest up, get some sleep.
That's what I'm doing.
Have a
Don't
great
tell
day,
anyone.
everyone.
Bye, Al.
Thanks. Bye.